Let's just start with the biggest question there is. What is the point of all this? From the tiniest atom all the way up to the biggest galaxy, why does any of it even exist? It's a question that's kept philosophers up at night for centuries. And today, we're going to dive into a really profound answer from the Islamic philosopher Allama Tabatabai. And the twist? The answer isn't out there in the stars, it's deep inside each of us.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. Why are we here? Why is there a universe? Why is there consciousness and life and anything at all instead of just nothing? Well, according to the philosophical tradition we're exploring today, just asking that question, that's the first step on the most important journey you could ever take. And the answer is the key to figuring out who you really are. So here's the answer. The entire purpose of all of creation in this view boils down to one single thing: knowledge. Now, this is actually a reframing of a famous Quranic verse that says creation is for worship. But classical commentators looked at that and said, wait a minute, how can you truly worship something you don't know? Without knowledge, worship is just an empty ritual, right? So the ultimate point of it all isn't just blind faith. It's a deep experiential knowing. They call it marifat. Okay, so if the goal is knowledge with a capital K, knowledge of the divine, how do we get there? Do we build bigger telescopes, smash more atoms? Well, the answer from this tradition is a huge no. The journey isn't outward, into the cosmos. The path begins within.
And this right here is the absolute heart of the path. Marifat al-nafs, or self-knowledge. The great sages were really insistent on this. You cannot hope to understand the divine by studying distant galaxies if you haven't first explored the universe inside yourself. You can literally map every star in the sky, but if you're a stranger to your own self, ultimate reality is always going to be behind a locked door. This single sentence, man, it's like a foundational axiom in Islamic mysticism. It's been a guiding star for seekers for centuries. And you gotta understand, it's not just a nice poetic phrase. It's understood to be a precise, logical key that unlocks everything. And this idea has a really solid foundation. The Quran actually says that people who forget God are in turn made to forget their own selves. So if you just flip that logically, the inverse has to be true, right? If you can come to know your own self, that path must lead you back to knowing God. It's this perfect, mirrored relationship. But what does it actually mean to know yourself? This brings us to a super important distinction, because in this tradition, not all knowledge is the same. And getting this difference is absolutely key to the entire journey.
So first off, this isn't about knowing your biology or how many cells are in your body. Think about it like this. A photograph of you is not you. It's just a representation of you. The concept of you in your mind is not you either. The real work is to get beyond all the images and the ideas, to get to the reality itself.
So this tradition splits knowledge into two basic types. On the one hand, you have what's called ilm hasuli, or acquired knowledge. This is pretty much everything you learn about the world. Facts, concepts, ideas in your mind. It's like a picture of reality. But on the other hand, there's ilm haduri, or presentational knowledge. This isn't a picture, it's reality itself. It's not thinking about being you. It is the direct, unfiltered experience of being you. And the self, they argue, can only ever truly be known this way, through presence. The entire spiritual path, then, is really about this one fundamental shift. It's a journey from the world of concepts to the world of presence. It's moving from just acquiring information to directly witnessing reality. It's like leaving the library of the mind and entering the throne room of the soul. And that leads us to this amazing central metaphor for the self. That little I that's at the center of your universe, it has this dual nature. Depending on its condition, it can either be the biggest roadblock to truth, or it can be the only gateway to it. Just think about that word for a second. I. Everything revolves around it. I want. I believe. I am. But who or what is this I? Is it your ego, or is it something much, much deeper? The answer to that question changes everything. Let's look at the contrast between two famous I statements. When Pharaoh declared, "I am your Lord," that was an act of pure ego. It created this thick wall of separation. But when the famous mystic Hallaj declared, "I am the truth," he meant the exact opposite. His I had been erased. It had become a selfless, polished mirror that was just reflecting the divine. Same word, but two completely different realities.
So when the I is full of ego, selfishness, pride, attachment to its own identity, it becomes a veil, a barrier that's described as being thicker and harder to get through than a mountain, completely blocking any light of a higher reality from getting in. But what if that same self could be purified? What if it could be polished, free of all the rust and dust of the ego? Then it transforms. It stops being a wall and it becomes a perfect mirror. It doesn't generate its own light anymore, it just reflects the light of the truth, perfectly.
The poet Rumi just puts it so beautifully. The goal is to become so clear, so transparent, that your only color is the color of what's being reflected in you. You stop being a source and you become a pure channel for reality itself.
Now, as you can probably imagine, polishing this mirror, well, it's not a weekend project. In fact, it's probably the hardest journey a person can take. And that is exactly why, according to this tradition, you absolutely cannot do it alone. You need a guide. This brings us to the concept of wilayat, or spiritual guardianship. This refers to the awliya, which means the friends of God. These are individuals who have already walked the path, who have successfully polished their own mirrors, and whose very presence can help guide others on their own journey. The logic here is that a text like the Quran has an outer shell and an inner meaning, called the batin. And to get to that deep inner meaning, you need a connection with someone who actually lives in that inner dimension, someone whose inner eye is already open. This also totally reframes the common idea of intercession, or shafa'at. It's not about asking someone to pull some strings for you with God. The root word shafath actually means to join or to pair. So real intercession is the seeker joining their path with a guide who's already finished the journey. That connection itself is what brings the light and the help you need to move forward. So where does this whole journey of self-knowledge and guidance actually lead? Well, the destination is a very specific state of consciousness. It's one last crucial shift in how we experience knowledge itself. Okay, one final crucial distinction. There's what's called ilm basit, or simple knowledge. Think of it like this. You know how to breathe. You do it perfectly, but you're not usually conscious of it. It's an innate knowledge. But the goal of the journey is ilm murakab, or compound knowledge. This isn't just knowing, it's knowing that you know. It's taking that unconscious competence and making it fully conscious, fully present. And what this means is that the mission of prophets and guides, it isn't to give us some brand new information we never had. It's to awaken the profound knowledge that's already lying dormant inside our souls. They're here to help us go from that simple, unconscious knowing to a compound conscious awareness, to finally know on a conscious level what we have always known deep down. And so, this entire journey, from the purpose of creation all the way to the nature of consciousness, brings us right back to one simple personal question. If your self is designed to be a mirror, to be a perfect reflection of reality, what does yours reflect right now, today? What colors, what images, what light is shining from it?